Now, ruling out foul play, the police said it was not clear who died first after the two were discovered dead in separate rooms on a Wednesday.
I don't know when the cause and the manner will be determined officially, or when the toxicology results come. I'm assuming that pathologist will wait for the toxicology to come back, so that'll help her make her decision on what the cause and manner is. But it could be months or 3 months or longer, in my experience.
The investigation into the mysterious deaths of Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, is revealing some unusual details. Initially believed to be a natural tragedy, police have uncovered a number of suspicious circumstances, and they all revolve around Betsy. She was not just the devoted wife the public knew, but she may be the most important piece in the mystery of Hackman's death. Was this really a natural death, or was there a well-hidden plot? As questions mount, Gene Hackman's 3 children are speaking out. Instead of honoring their late father, they are expressing skepticism about his death, and especially his stepmother's role in it. Why did Hackman suddenly cut off contact with his children in his final years? Why did Betsy seek to control everything around him? Did his stepmother have anything to do with Hackman's death? Let's find out the answer right away. The public was shocked by the unusual death of Gene Hackman, the legendary Hollywood actor, and his wife, Betsy Arakawa. When the police found their bodies in the luxurious but cold mansion, one horrifying detail scared everyone: both of them looked like they had been mummified. Although at first glance, the scene appeared to be a natural death or an accident, the initial investigation quickly revealed many mysteries. One of the first details to attract attention was the position of Gene Hackman's body. He was lying near his walking stick, one hand still on his sunglasses. It seemed like he had collapsed on the spot. But investigators noticed something was wrong. First was the unusual angle of fall. If Hackman had actually fallen, he would have fallen by inertia, but instead, his body was in an almost arranged position. Second, there were no signs of struggle or pain. A 95-year-old man, if he had suffered a sudden medical emergency, would at least have some trace of a seizure or movement, but in this case, there was none. Partial embalming. Forensics confirmed that Hackman's body had undergone a slower-than-normal decomposition process, as if it had been preserved by some means. Meanwhile, Betsy Arakawa was found in her bedroom bed, lying upright, neatly covered. However, the autopsy showed that she had died just hours after Hackman. This raised the big question: if Hackman had died first, why didn't Arakawa call an ambulance? Why was she still lying there waiting to die? But what was even more shocking was the investigation that followed. They discovered that Betsy Arakawa may have been more than just the devoted wife the public knew. She may have been a key piece in the mystery of Hackman's death. While police were still searching for answers, Gene Hackman's 3 children, who had rarely appeared in his life, suddenly returned to Santa Fe after learning of their father's death. They had had little contact with him for years after he remarried Betsy Arakawa, his second wife, who was 32 years his junior. However, their appearance was not only to mourn but also to raise new questions. All 3 expressed suspicions about their father's unusual death and began to question their stepmother. They believed that Betsy Arakawa may have been hiding something or had a role in their father's death. It is known that Gene Hackman had 3 children from his first marriage to Faye Maltese: Christopher Allen, Elizabeth Jean, and Leslie Ann Hackman. After divorcing Maltese in 1986, Hackman married Betsy Arakawa in 1991. Arakawa, a Hawaiian classical pianist, became the stepmother to the 3 children. It is reported that Hackman lost contact with his children for a long time, especially after he remarried Arakawa. However, he tried to mend his relationship with them before his death. According to some sources, Hackman expressed regret for not being present in his children's lives and made efforts to improve the relationship. Hackman's 3 children say, Arakawa always appeared to be a devoted wife, devoted to her husband, but her actions were full of suspicious mysteries. Hackman, who had long since retired and lived a reclusive life, no longer used a phone or email. His friends had to communicate through Arakawa, who protected him from the attention of fans and the media. It was even reported that Hackman and his wife used secret hand signals to communicate in social situations. Gene Hackman could only be contacted through his protective wife, Betsy Arakawa, in his later years, and she also saved him from annoying fans with a secret hand signal. A unique method of communication allowed them to send personal messages that no one else could understand. When he needed to escape from uncomfortable social situations or simply leave a conversation without offending the other person, Hackman would simply make a small hand gesture, a subtle change that only his wife could detect. This not only protected their privacy, but was also an expression of a harmonious relationship where mutual understanding and support were expressed not through words but through small gestures. This signal, though simple, became an essential part of their daily lives, like a private secret that no one else could intrude on. When Hackman was hit by a car while cycling, Arakawa reportedly disguised herself as a nurse so that paparazzi would not follow her in and out of the hospital. This raised many questions about the level of privacy the couple maintained, as well as other secrets they may have kept. Betsy Arakawa's secret. The private investigator hired to investigate the suspicions surrounding the couple noticed that, in addition to the secret hand signals between them, Arakawa frequently disappeared for periods of time. Bank records showed that she had made unexplained withdrawals of considerable sums, but Hackman was unaware of them. Under the guise of a devoted wife, Arakawa seemed to be hiding a plan of her own. When the investigator investigated her past, a surprising truth emerged: she was not only Hackman's second wife, but also the stepmother of his children from his first marriage. It is worth mentioning that, since Hackman remarried Arakawa, his relationship with his children from his first marriage gradually became distant. In fact, Hackman's children rarely saw their father. Before marrying Arakawa, Hackman was married for 30 years to Faye Maltese, from 1956 to 1986. The marriage produced 3 children, Christopher, Elizabeth, and Leslie Hackman. Hackman initially kept in touch with his children after the divorce, but things gradually changed when Arakawa came into his life. Those close to the family say Arakawa had a huge influence on Hackman's personal life. His children tried to visit but were often refused for various reasons. Some of Hackman's friends believe Arakawa intended to isolate him from his past, especially his previous relationships, including his own children. Although there is no clear evidence that Arakawa intentionally drove Hackman and his children apart, the actor hardly saw his children in his later years. Some sources even claim that Hackman's children were unaware of his health condition before the tragedy. In an interview with DailyMail.com, Hackman's daughter admitted that she had not spoken to her father for months. Sources close to the family said that Arakawa always controlled Hackman's incoming calls and often made up excuses to avoid him seeing his biological children. This raised questions about whether she was deliberately isolating Hackman to seize his assets. A close family friend revealed that Hackman and Betsy had been having quiet tensions recently. Although they appeared to be a happy couple, Hackman had expressed his loneliness on several occasions, especially as his old age made him increasingly dependent on his younger wife. Was there a conflict between them before the tragedy? Additionally, a source said that Gene Hackman had intended to rewrite his will before he died. But did he make any changes? And if so, what did they say about his vast fortune? Arakawa's friends told the Times that Hackman was also intent on maintaining a healthy diet and would occasionally sneak a muffin or waffle when she wasn't around. He said many times that he would die without Betsy, Tom Allen said. These details suggest that Hackman was dependent on Arakawa not only emotionally but also in his daily life. It seemed that she not only controlled his public life but also deeply interfered with Hackman's most personal habits. Mysterious signals and Arakawa's role. At parties or public events, Hackman and Arakawa often used special hand signals to communicate with each other that no one else could understand. A body language expert who reviewed the videos of them concluded that these signals were not simply a way for them to avoid unpleasant conversations, but seemed to have a deeper meaning, possibly related to a pre-planned plan. By monitoring Arakawa's bank accounts and mysterious meetings, the private investigator realized that she had prepared a large amount of money to move abroad. Was this a preparation for an escape after her plan was complete? The suspicions surrounding Betsy Arakawa became more serious when both husband and wife were found dead at the same time under mysterious circumstances. What really happened in their final days? Some initial forensic reports found no signs of violence or forced entry, but experts believe that Arakawa's financial secrets may have been directly related to her sudden departure. Was she silenced because her machinations were discovered, or did she orchestrate the affair to escape punishment? Could Hackman have discovered his wife's betrayal and that led to a tragic end? Not only did Gene Hackman's 3 children raise their suspicions about their stepmother, they also revealed a terrifying truth about Hackman's true character. For the first time in decades, his 3 children broke their silence not to mourn but to expose the truth about an estranged father, a fractured family relationship and a life behind the spotlight that no one dared to tell. This is not only the story of a broken family but also a warning about the price of fame, about the trade-off between career and blood, and about the secrets hidden under the glitz of Hollywood. No one thought that a man like Gene Hackman, who conquered the world with his famous roles, could die so alone. But his death is not simply a tragic event, it opens old wounds and raises questions that are more haunting than the films he starred in. There are stories that are never fully told when the people involved are still in the spotlight. Gene Hackman's life was a long journey from poverty to the peak of fame, but in that journey, he left behind something that no monument can erase: 3 children abandoned in silence for decades. When the public saw Hackman on screen, they saw a strong man, a resilient character, a man who confronted fate. But behind that halo, he was not a father his children could rely on. There were no family meals, no hugs when a child fell, no heartfelt birthday wishes. There was only a growing distance, awkward phone calls, letters that never got sent. Gene Hackman was an ambitious young man, a man who refused to accept defeat. When he started acting, it became a battle, not just against the harsh industry but against his own choices. When opportunities came, he grabbed them all, leaving no room for his family. The roles, the movies, the photo shoots, the interviews, all of them were more important than dinners with his wife and children. And so the gap between Hackman and his children grew, until it became an unbridgeable chasm. His daughter, Elizabeth Hackman, once said something startling: "I don't hate my father, but I don't know how to love him either." It was a short sentence but carried the weight of decades of silence. Every child longs for a father, but when that doesn't happen, they eventually learn to live without him. By the time Hackman left their mother to remarry Betsy Arakawa, the relationship had all but collapsed. In 1991, when Hackman married his second wife, who was nearly 30 years his junior, it was not only the beginning of a new marriage but also the end of the bond between him and his 3 children from his previous marriage. Christopher, the eldest son, still remembers the last time he saw his father at a small diner in Santa Monica. They sat across from each other, 2 people of the same blood but not knowing what to say to each other. After a long silence, Hackman said only one sentence: "Dad lost you a long time ago." Christopher did not respond. There was no reproach, no anger, just the harsh truth that it was too late. Over the next few years, Elizabeth and Leslie gradually accepted that their father was no longer a part of their lives. They stopped waiting for phone calls, stopped hoping for meetings. Gene Hackman continued with his illustrious career, while his 3 children became ghosts in his life, names that existed only on paper, nothing more. When Hackman grew old, he chose to live a reclusive life in Santa Fe with Betsy Arakawa. But according to those who knew them, it was Betsy who kept him away from his old family. Hackman's children repeatedly wanted to see him, but Betsy always found a way to refuse. The calls were dropped, the messages were not returned. This woman was more than just a wife, she seemed to be a wall between Hackman and his past. After Gene Hackman died, his 3 children received a chilling message: Betsy Arakawa and Gene Hackman were found dead in their home this morning. There was no explanation, no message from their father before he left. They didn't cry. They had learned not to cry long ago. But as the 3 of them stood outside their father's house in Santa Fe, they discovered something that left them speechless: family photos on the wall for the first time. Unsent letters. Unspoken apologies. For the first time in decades, Gene Hackman's 3 children stood in public, not to defend or excuse him, but to tell the story that no one else dared to tell. Christopher stepped forward to say, he wasn't a perfect father. There were times when he almost didn't exist. But he was our father. Elizabeth added, "We're not here to defend or attack anyone. We're just saying that behind every monument, there are shadows." And Leslie, the youngest sibling who has always remained silent, said the final words: today, we choose to break that silence. Gene Hackman's 3 children stepped out of their father's shadow, not to demand justice, not to deny his legacy, but to remind him that no legend is perfect. Sometimes, behind the spotlight are stories that no one wants to face. But regardless, Gene Hackman's story is not just about a Hollywood legend, it's also about the children who were left behind. Gene Hackman's 3 children have finally broken their silence about Betsy Arakawa, the stepmother who was their father's constant companion for more than 30 years but who also alienated them from him. While they did not directly accuse him, their statements have raised many questions about Betsy's role in Hackman's life and whether she had anything to do with his isolation in his later years. No one can deny that Betsy Arakawa was always by Gene Hackman's side, but was she truly his loving companion or the one who controlled his life? Their deaths leave many unanswered questions, not only about the real cause behind the tragedy but also about the secrets of their family relationship that they never made public. Hackman's 3 children, after years of being pushed out of their father's life, can only stand on the sidelines and wonder if there is anything they can do to change his fate. When the investigation is over, the exact answer may never be revealed, but the questions about Betsy Arakawa's role will forever be part of the story of Gene Hackman, a screen legend, an estranged father and a man who died alone and unknown. What do you think about Gene Hackman's death? Leave your thoughts in the comments section and don't forget to like, share and subscribe so you don't miss the next analysis.